PM flags public service overhaul. Manning says Whistleblowers Act to strengthen police work. And Minister denies ordering tourist ban in East New Britain.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Tuesday's news. Prime Minister James Marape and his contingent arrived from New Zealand this afternoon. Marape, when speaking to the media, said his government will review several key government structures, including a full overhaul of the public service and labour departments, citing the labour mobility scheme offered by New Zealand and Australia. Another key agenda taken into consideration while in New Zealand was the Bougainville referendum and reserved seats for women in Parliament.
Sorry for holding you all up.
Prime Minister James Marape arriving back with his entourage and with a bold statement of re-looking the public service system in place and remodelling it with how the New Zealand public service works.
There is no wastes in the system, there is no corruption in the system, and they deliver to expectations. And Governor Jufa, as chairman of our Parliamentary Committee on Public Sector Reform, was with me in every conversation and made contacts, and we will have greater dialogue in ensuring that the system of public service they have in New Zealand is the type of system we'd like to build our public service. At the moment our public service has been functioning, but there's a lot of room for improvement, and we believe the New Zealand model in public service structure and system is the public service standard that we'd like to subscribe to.
Prime Minister James Marape is saying the model of how New Zealand's economy is based on agriculture, fisheries and tourism is the way his government wants to go.
The view our government holds that we feel our strength lies in agriculture, fisheries and sustainable forestry and tourism. And so our visit to New Zealand is just not to pass time, but more to touch base with them and consolidate our own bilaterals with them, and also for us, not only at government to government level, but more importantly at our bureaucratic level and our business engagements to grow up and consolidate.
Marape visiting apple orchards in New Zealand where PNG workers currently work under the Seasonal Workers Program. Back here in Port Moresby, the Labour Department has been the main problem of why the Labour Mobility Scheme for seasonal workers has seen only a few numbers of Papua New Guineans accessing it.
Our Education Department, Labour Department, and tidy the process. What has told them from recruiting more Papua New Guineans, they were telling us, is some sort of rigidness in our Labour Department. So, but you know, $17 an hour, these people are earning 8,000 kina in a month.
The Prime Minister admitting that and stating that work is being done to relook what is going wrong in the Labour Department.
When I come back from Solomon Islands next week, I'm going to call our Labour Department, tidy this, clean up, link NID. That's why we want Papua New Guineans who are not employed, you around doing nothing, especially those who come out of grade 12. I'll be getting Defence Force to try to identify where they are. We'll get participate in the census 2020, identify all our Papua New Guineans and work systematically towards having some sort of government support program or linking them all to SMEs.
Other agendas from the New Zealand trip included the APEC commitment of the rural electrification program signed between New Zealand, USA, Australia and PNG.
The Minister of Planning made a point that you tell us exactly where your investment area is. And Minister of Planning is also sending out notice to the 4 nations who've signaled to help. And we want them to tell us exactly where they will be investing. But government has indicated to them the Connect PNG program. We want the major carrier lines to be connecting all parts of our country within the next 5 years, and that's something that is part of our program. So,
also discussed was the Bougainville referendum and the consultation process going forward in seeing the full peace agreement process taking place.
If I was a little bit tricky on the part of the rest of PNG, we had intelligence on us beforehand that majority would vote for independence. We would not have allowed the voting to take place. But we were sincere. It's part of the peace process. The voting process must continue. They voted. We've had them. And Parliament will deal with them at an appropriate timing. And that appropriate timing will be defined by meeting between us and them. And the first meeting is coming up on the 6th of March next month. We will go to Arawa and we will meet the normal JSB, the Joint Supervisory Body meeting, will continue.
The Prime Minister is expected to leave for Solomon Islands on Thursday this week for his first state visit. Adelaide Kari, National EMTV News.
Before his official visit to Fiji and New Zealand, Prime Minister James Marape announced he would charter the Air Niugini Falcon jet. However, a month back, he made claims that the O'Neill government owed Air Niugini 30 million kina for the use of the Falcon and that he would not charter the aircraft. Today, opposition leader Belden Nama questioned the Prime Minister regarding his previous statement, adding that the charter of the Falcon cost millions, money that could be used for government programs.
Traveling on Falcon private jet will cost the taxpayers of this country a lot of money, especially when we are in a situation where this government cannot pay 100% TFF. When this government has promised to give loan to the students at tertiary institutions and now falls back and says that the students and their parents will pay 75% and the government will pay 25%. And this is the Prime Minister who travels on a Falcon, and this money that is spent on his private trips can be better used in our human resource development, in our schools and hospitals, or to combat and safeguard our country from this outbreak of coronavirus. It is a sad situation when a Prime Minister time and time again makes a promise and breaks the promise again.
Police Commissioner David Manning says passing of the 2020 Whistleblowers Act will bring the work of police in Papua New Guinea to a higher level. Through the establishment, the Independent Commission Against Corruption or ICAC bill, the police force, the Ombudsman Commission and the courts are expected to work together to minimize corrupt practices.
The Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary will be an important law enforcing agency when carrying out functions set out by the 2020 Whistleblowers Act. Head of the Constabulary, David Manning, says the introduction and passing of the bill will see greater cooperation between law enforcing agencies who will be part of the ICAC structure.
So we'll need to develop SOPs, so standard operating procedures, and how best we can translate or operationalize the bill into our day-to-day business. But it would require extensive workshopping of the bill itself within the constabulary, and in particular, especially in the CID and the fraud squad and major crimes units, transnational crime. So once we build that capacity in terms of understanding how and how to operationalize it in our day-to-day investigations, then it wouldn't necessarily cause for a establishment of a particular specialized unit, but it would require us to develop SOPs to cater for persons or person coming in wanting to share information or provide information on a particular crime being committed.
The Whistleblowers Bill was passed in Parliament last Tuesday when all 90 members of Parliament who were present when the bill was read voted for the bill to be a law that Prime Minister James Marape says will protect those who report corrupt practices in the government system.
And I want to go one step further again to relook at the Whistleblowers Act to give reward to those who report bribery and corruption. Instead of you getting reward from those who want to, instead of you giving money or you giving bribery to others, you report bribery, and we will reward you in terms of, we will protect you and reward you in terms of for you starting to report bribery in our economy and in our country. That has been a scourge, and we need to systematically get rid of this sort of culture and start our nation towards a right path in the 2020s. So Parliamentarians are doing what they're supposed to do by putting laws, but it's up to every one of us right throughout our country to help assist police and assist the Ombudsman Commission and assist the ICAC structure we'll set up.
In Parliament last week, Deputy Prime Minister and Attorney General Davis Stephen said the bill complements the Marape-led government's approach to address the perception of corruption in Papua New Guinea. There were notable comments from NCD, East Sepik and Enga governors on the different functions that the police, the Ombudsman Commission and the public prosecutor will play. Today, Commissioner Manning says the role police will play will differ from the other organizations. However, at this stage, the extension of the role police will perform is still in discussion.
The law through the criminal code and such, but ICAC just allows us another level of the fight against corruption in the country. So will very much be part of the whole process, and we see as the head of this organization, I don't see any concerns about the duplication of the roles. There is none. It's, well, our view of the ICAC bill is that it complements what we're doing. If anything, it then provides us a greater capacity to deal with, especially the more complicated corruption cases that transcend boundaries, international borders, agencies. It's quite complex, the fight against corruption, and the ICAC bill provides us that opportunity to bring the fight to them.
Thaklagunga, National EMTV News.
You're with National EMTV News. We'll be back with more after these messages. Stay with us. Welcome back. Tourists on board a cruise ship were prevented from docking at the Rabaul port after directives were issued by the East New Britain Provincial Health Authority. The Cunard's Queen Elizabeth arrived in Rabaul on Sunday morning with 2,000 tourists on board, but passengers failed to disembark. The refusal of entry was prompted by the coronavirus threat. The East New Britain Provincial Health Authority ordered all international visitors be screened prior to their entry into the province. The move has disappointed tour operators in the province who waited eagerly at the wharf to meet the visitors. Meanwhile, help desks were set up at Tokwa Airport and at the Rabaul Wharf earlier this month. It is understood the cruise ship failed to meet health and safety requirements established by the Provincial Health Authority, such as health declaration forms for passengers. The Rabaul port is expecting 3 more cruise liners in the coming weeks, but tour operators say they may all follow the same path. In response to East New Britain Provincial Health Authority refusing entry for tourists disembarking at the Rabaul Wharf, Health Minister Jelta Wong distanced himself from this action. The minister said as the person responsible for issuing such directions, he did not approve the directive. The only restriction currently in place is to restrict people entering PNG who have been to mainland China.
Passengers on board Australian-registered cruise liner Queen Elizabeth docked at Rabaul Port on Sunday last week, but were refused entry into the province following quarantine warnings from the East New Britain Provincial Health Authority of a coronavirus threat. However, none of the passengers were in mainland China for the past 14 days or even having an infectious disease. Health and HIV and AIDS Minister Jelta Wong says the only restrictions in place are for those people entering PNG that have been in mainland China. These people must be quarantined in a country outside of mainland China for 14 days before even entering PNG borders.
With the evidence that we have, the tourist vessels were went into places where the coronavirus originated from. And it came from Australia, which is the bottom end of Australia. And the tourist vessels had done prior checks on their passengers before they went onto the ship, and none of them had gone through China or had any connection with China. That's why I allowed that vessel to come into berth.
The health minister says there were 4 reported cases in PNG who were believed to have symptoms of the virus, but results were negative after numerous tests were done at laboratories in Goroka.
I can tell you from the facts that I've got that no one has coronavirus in Papua New Guinea. But we are vigilant. NDOH, our people that we combine with, NAC, New Guinea, immigration, we are being so vigilant that we are strict with our own people coming in and out of the country.
The minister urged every Papua New Guinean not to believe social media posts and updates because once the virus is present in the country, the health department will be the first people to relay the message and give out precautions and warnings.
There's a lot of information out there and there's a lot of false information that comes on social media. At this point of time, Papua New Guinea has no coronavirus.
Michelle Stephen, National EMTV News.
Prepare for a pandemic, the warning from the World Health Organization as coronavirus advances around the globe. Several nations now enforcing lockdowns in large areas as infections and deaths outside China mount. Growing fears that it can't be contained, triggering financial fallout too.
A barrage of emergency alerts in South Korea.
But that's the kind of thing
another one.
Oh, we get another one coming?
Pop-ups warning people of where the coronavirus is spreading. The country suffering the biggest outbreak outside of mainland China, 8 people killed, more than 830 infected. Hundreds are lining up for face masks, with many missing out.
This is the first time we've been out the house in 3 days, and we couldn't buy more masks.
There are claims of a cover-up in Iran as the virus spreads through the Middle East. Officials accused of hiding 50 deaths in the city of Qom.
If the numbers of the dead in Qom are half or even quarter of this number, I will resign.
At least 6 are dead in Italy, with hundreds diagnosed.
We're following our instructions, blocking roads and asking people inside not to leave their homes unless absolutely necessary.
Thousands are quarantined amid fears the virus could spread through the rest of Europe. That uncertainty clear in the share market. More than $1.5 billion was wiped from our share market, with others around the globe seeing a downturn too. While the World Health Organization is yet to declare a pandemic, the message is clear.
Prepared to detect cases, prepared to treat cases, prepared to follow contacts, prepared to put in place adequate containment measures.
A warning officials here are heeding, considering widening travel restrictions to other countries.
They are already actively discussing whether the changes we are seeing in countries like South Korea and Italy should change our approach, in particular our case definition, that is who we might have a suspicion of if they are symptomatic.
That call will be made Thursday morning.
The upgrade of roads in the Lae will continue to be a priority for the Lae City Authority this year, says MP John Rosso. This section of the Bougainville Road in Lae is currently being upgraded and is nearing completion. According to Rosso, the upgrade of all roads and streets within Lae will cost at least 150 million kina to complete. Having received only 9.5 million kina from the provincial government this year, Rosso says they will continue to work on improving the road slowly, which will take another 2 years to complete. Meanwhile, another road section that is currently in need of maintenance is the Chinatown Hunter Malahang Road. PNG Ports Corporation today signed a contract to build more pilot boats and increase its fleet. PNG Ports inked the deal with Australian company Norman Wright & Sons at the PNG PCL head office in Port Moresby.
A small but very significant event for the PNG Ports as it continues its responsibility in its piloted service in the country. Board Chairman Kapas Wali says the 2 additional boats will help address increasing demand and expand its services.
On new clients, we've got certain requirements, and obviously the procurement of these 2 boats from Norman Wright and Sons is a very significant milestone.
The PNG Ports chairman says the signing is the result of a lengthy tender process to ensure the boats are designed for specification and workable in PNG's marine condition. Chairman Wali added that all these are part of the agency's modernization plan.
The boat has got a fleet that needs changing. It's obviously an old fleet in some of those boats. So we are obviously very pleased
Managing Director for Norman Wright & Sons, Tony Rick, says designs have been prepared and construction of the boats will commence soon. Rick says the company will continue its impression with PNG Ports to offer the piloted service in the country by building customized and modern pilot boats.
Very happy to be in partnership with you on delivering these two boats, and we are chomping at the bit to get started, and we can't wait to bring them up here in a year or so's time, and for you to experience the quality of our builds and the performance of our boats.
Jack LaPava Jr., National EMTV News.
Western Highlands Provincial Education Division has a new education advisor, Simon Sam. Outgoing advisor Knox Kiap left the position vacant after being appointed as the provincial government's Deputy Administrator Corporate Services. It was Sam's first day in office yesterday, but he was already bombarded with teachers and standard officers' grievances.
With the elevation of positions in the Education Division comes with added responsibilities. The outgoing PEA, who's also the new Deputy Provincial Administrator Corporate Service, Knox Kiap, urged his predecessor to maintain the leadership role in the division. Kiap says with the support from his colleagues, he built 19 new high schools within the 7 years period of being the Provincial Education Advisor.
19 last year, we have 80 no teacher salary queries as it the news line, so I am also proud.
Other matters that need consideration, proper management and maintenance are teachers' appointments, teachers' salary and leave fares. The division has also been working with UNICEF PNG and partners for all elementary teachers to be trained to be fluent with phonics.
And I now know that I am leaving this in the capable hands of Simon Sam.
Meanwhile, the District Education Advisor, Tom Korowa, says there are still lack of communication between the Provincial Education Office and the District Education Division. Korowa calls for the new advisor to also consider districts in the new decision-making.
The District Education Advisors are the very important people, together with the standards, the inspectors. We are there to coordinate all the programs that is happening in the province. We should not be forgotten.
Mr. Simon Sam said as the new advisor, he will maintain strictness and be tough on lazy teachers, inspectors and education staff. He said teachers must know which client days to visit the division so that students must not miss out on class. Sam said this is to maintain the education standard of schools in the province.
Mr. Billy trust na confidence na honesty long me before on not by trust me. And that principle I am going to stand on it as I am now going to sit on the chair. I'll be following that principle. Some things will be tough and it's for a better cause.
Teachers and parents are urged to take ownership and responsibility of education in the province. The province and the division has seen the importance of education and will improve in its services for their children to get good education. Vasanatha Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
Thank you.
National EMTV News continues with more after these messages. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Eastern Highlands Governor Peter Numu wants a change in the police provincial command for the province. Numu said provincial headquarters had seen severe damages last year during the appointment of provincial administrators, an issue that plagued the province. Governor Numu added that no arrest was made even after complaints were laid by him.
Eastern Highlands Governor Peter Numu stating his provincial government had spent 4 million kina to have outside centres mobile squads assist in regaining peace during provincial administration changes in the province.
It cost us 4 million plus kina to engage police from outside. That's people's money. That's people's money. And it cost us that much, 4 million plus, to bring in police force from outside. That 4 million, we're supposed to use it to, strengthen some police force and some other basic services in the province. But because of his negligence and lack of leadership on the ground has caused us all this.
Governor Numu saying he had laid formal complaints after he was assaulted, and in another case last year when the provincial government building was raided. No arrest was made and the complaint was not followed up on.
Those who destroyed the state properties, causing nuisance and disturbing the government services. Yet he failed to effect arrest. All those people who came into Yanapa building, provincial government building, and destroyed and took out all the computers belongs to the treasury. All the confidential information, they took it out and instigated by one man. But provincial police commander said, we are independent. He said that we are independent, and he remained as an independent provincial police commissioner, and not to protect the government of the day.
Today, Police Commissioner David Manning commenting on the issue, stating the provincial commander should not be taking sides and follow due processes in place.
Process, and again, I can't comment on the actual proceedings at the moment, whether it's been brought to appeal or whatever. All I can advise and direct the PPC to do is just to stay out of it and just do his job.
The governor calling on for changes to be made to allow the provincial government to work along with police in addressing law and order issues in the province.
I want the police commissioner, I'm the governor of the Eastern Islands province. You Ardern tok blow, cry na heavy blow, people blow Eastern Islands, and remove this provincial police commander immediately na replace him one time Narpa line. Na larim me by putting budget na kirapin police in Chetlo province, na all can work him good bla work, na look out in people blow me.
Adelaide Sirkskari, National, EMTV News.
A petition signed by over 500 individuals has been presented to the head of United Nations Resident Coordinator in PNG. The petition is for the genocide killings in West Papua in 2019 and the fight for freedom in the affected region. The petition was presented by the PNG Council of Churches, witnessed by Governors Powes Pakop and Gary Juffa. Governor Juffa says PNG must be the voice for the people of West Papua as a close friend and neighbour. UN Resident Coordinator Jean-Luc Rampolla says UN is doing everything in its capacity to maintain human rights declaration and also to assist PNG in any circumstance.
My headquarters, and I heard Governor Parkhope in his speech just now to stadium saying that he expects feedback, so we will revert with feedback on your petition.
As long as there is an oppression, a suppression of their rights to express themselves, to live with dignity and expect the freedom that they deserve, we are obligated to speak for them as their people. And there is a great need to correct the 1969 event that is referred to as the Act of Free Choice, which was in fact not an act of free choice, it was an act of no choice.
Enga Province signed a three-party memorandum of understanding with the Climate Change and Development Authority and the Global Green Growth Institute today. This MOU stands to promote programs, projects and other joint activities in support of climate-resilient green growth within the province. The Climate Resilient Green Growth Project aims to mainstream climate resilience and green growth priorities into provincial planning and budgeting. It also intends to strengthen capacity of the provincial government in planning and mobilizing finance for climate-compatible projects reaching the 4 districts of the province. Enga and Milne Bay are 2 of the 3 focus provinces which the project will be operated in for the next 3 years. Funded by the PNG Australia partnership, the $4.4 million project will be implemented by GGGI. Turning overseas now, climate change and transnational crimes have been top of the agenda for New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern on her first official trip to Fiji.
4 years makes Frank Bainimarama's red carpet treatment for Jacinda Ardern a far cry from the frosty reception he's reserved for former New Zealand leaders.
I believe our world badly needs more leaders like Jacinda.
The love fest continuing around the bilateral table.
What maybe New Zealand's Pacific Research Council are promising between the shared values of Fijians and Kiwis that shine through.
Climate change has been one of those shared issues that has given Fiji and New Zealand common ground.
Please consider us partners as we work together, not just in our region but globally.
But the Prime Minister not prepared to directly call out Australia over its lack of climate change action at her upcoming meeting with Scott Morrison later this week.
This idea that somehow me going in and wagging my finger is going to change another country's domestic policy, I don't think is an accurate representation of the way that any of us do politics.
The gap is quite big and seems to be getting bigger all the time. And how New Zealand is able to maneuver and how it's able to navigate itself diplomatically to bridge that gap would be quite interesting to see.
While there's no doubt the two leaders have made a personal connection as well as a diplomatic one, the situation is by no means immovable.
I think one of the issues with Bainimarama is that he's a bit unpredictable. So he might be diplomatic at one level one day, and then he might have other thoughts the next day.
But for today at least, the relationship between New Zealand and Fiji couldn't be warmer.
US President Donald Trump had a rock star welcome in India, calling it spectacular. The US President addressed more than 100,000 people packed into a stadium at the start of his two-day state visit to try and reach his trade deal.
The First Lady and President Trump began their whirlwind trip to India in the city of Ahmedabad in Gujarat, hometown of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who welcomed them with his trademark bear hug and traditional dances you don't usually see on the tarmac. For the president, who's often greeted by protests, a procession through the city's streets. No sign of the 7 million people he boasted would turn up, but a lot of love for Mr. Trump from those who did.
Yeah, he's a nice man. He's a friend of India.
Two great leaders, maybe they will take the world to a new height.
The atmosphere here is electric for what's the hottest ticket in town. Two leaders considered political rock stars, deeply polarising but also hugely popular. The main event, a rally to inaugurate the world's largest cricket stadium in the world's largest democracy.
America loves India, America respects India, and America will always be faithful and loyal friends.
But America still can't agree a trade deal with India after months of tough talks. With his daughter Ivanka and son-in-law Jared Kushner watching on, the president praised India's cultural heritage, but it didn't all go to plan.
As the great religious teacher Swami Vivekananda once said.
There were no awkward moments when the first couple paid a visit to the famous Taj Mahal, a monument built by an emperor for his wife, dedicated to love. The partnership between India and the US remains strong, but while there have been plenty of photo moments, it's unclear what major policy agreements this visit will achieve.
Up next, some sporting updates in Chukai Sports. Don't go away.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome to Chukai Sports. The PNG Hunters won their trial match on Saturday convincingly by 30 points to 12. However, it was the first trial match and the captain and coach both agree that more needs to be done to improve their game before the season starts in March.
Despite the PNG Hunters coming out victors on Saturday, there is still much work to do. A 30 points to 12 scoreline against the Central Queensland Capras was impressive, But coach Matthew Chet says there is still a long way to go.
In our first trial, we're a long way from being perfect. That's something we'll stress with our boys about, especially with the video. Their first try come on the back of 3 repeat sets by us just turning the footy over and over. And you just can't do that at this level. You're going to get hurt no matter who you play. You just can't defend for set on set on set. So yeah, it's something that it's been an issue in the past, and it's something that I'm looking to correct in the near future.
The trial match was played in quarters, with the PNG Hunters fielding 28 players as opposed to the Capras, who had a playing squad of 18 players, a mixture of senior and new players. This played to the advantage of the Hunters more than the Capras. Captain of the Hunters, Boa, says their performance is a work in progress. The team made some adjustments to their set plays, but more needs to be improved.
A lot of set play we're trying to modify it and try to use it up every set when we arrive at the try line and stuff. So we try our best to execute it well. So when our execution is well and the timing is right, that's when the gap open and that's where the try is coming. So there's more improvement on our attack, and yeah, that's what we're looking for. So at least we get a first trial and see how we go, so we adjust from there.
For new coach Matthew Church, he says the team needs to appreciate the fans who turn up to show their support.
And the fans, I made a point of we need to support the people who support us. So, we're happy to take the pats on the back, but we've got to also be taking our medicine when we don't get the results. So, but we need to look after the community. It costs a lot of money for those people to come, and sometimes we play week on week here, and they don't or can't really afford it, but they make the effort to get here.
Fidelis Sukina National, EMTV Sports.
The Port Moresby Billiard and Snooker Association's corporate snooker competition today got a boost ahead of the cue-off for the season in March 2020. LJ Hooker Real Estate Company donated 10,000 kina to get the naming rights sponsorship for this season.
2020 Port Moresby Billiard and Snooker Association corporate snooker competition due to cue off in March. The competition today was blessed to receive a sponsorship of 10,000 kina from real estate company LJ Hooker Real Estate Limited. POM BSA President John Chan thanked the long-time supporter of snooker for the donation.
It's not the first time LJ Hooker has been a sponsor in snooker. They've been involved before in our national titles, but this is the first time for LJ Hooker to come on board as an official sponsor and a naming right for our Port Moresby corporate snooker competition.
LJ Hooker has always been a fan and supporter of the POM BSA corporate snooker competition and was more than grateful to sponsor the competition.
BSA competition for giving us the opportunity to become named sponsors for the event. We are very excited and looking forward to a great competition this year, as it has been in the past.
The competition only had a Premier Division last season, but this year the President says they will open up to include an Open Division.
This corporate competition for a long time now. Last year we only had the Premier Grade Division, but we're hoping this year it's open again to the Open Division, where A Grade, B Grade and C Grade will combine to participate, and we hope that we can get a lot of teams involved.
The competition is scheduled to cue off on the 17th of March 2020.
We can get a lot of teams involved. Premier Grade, we're already looking at securing at least 6 teams, maybe 7 teams, and we're hoping that the event will start off on time on the 17th of March.
Fidelis Sukina National, EMTV Sports.
Chukai Sports continues with more after these messages. Stay with us.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome back to Chukai Sports. To cricket, fresh off his dream debut, Black Caps bowler Kyle Jamieson is struggling to sum up his first taste of Test cricket.
Played a key role in the side's 10-wicket victory over India at the Basin Reserve, with his 4 wickets in the first innings crucial in gaining an early upper hand.
I actually was quite relaxed, which I actually probably surprised myself a little bit the last couple of weeks with how relaxed I've been, but
I guess that's the beauty of coming to this team, that there's so many experienced heads and so many good cricketers that I can just come in and just do my role.
The role's now very different to the first time Coach Gary Stead saw Jamison play in Canterbury.
Kyle was a 17, 18-year-old when he came down to Lincoln University. He actually was a batsman and didn't really bowl at all. And for me to see that develop in 6 or 7 years is a pretty amazing story in itself.
That rise now posing a selection dilemma for the Black Caps, with Neil Wagner in line to return to the team after the birth of his first child. Stead isn't ruling out picking 4 seamers for the second test at Hagley Oval, which starts on Saturday.
The New Zealand Golf Open starts on Thursday in Queenstown with a host of professionals, amateurs, celebrities and young stars trying to make their mark. Among those vying for top spot is Denzel Yerema, a young man who looks to have quickly found his feet in the professional ranks.
There's not too many Kiwi golfers with a hotter hand. Denzel Yerema, just 24 and already eyeing his first NZ Open title barely a year after turning pro.
I think everyone here believes they can win, and I certainly do as well. In terms of what it can do for me, I don't think that far ahead.
The Kiwi, whose second cousin is former All Black Alama Yerema, comes into the tournament in career best form following a top 5 finish at the Australian Open. Victory would be a perfect way to honour his former Iowa State College teammate Celia Barquin Arizamina, who was killed by a homeless man in 2018.
I think we all just try to do our best because that's what you'd want to do.
Also eager to do well is tournament wildcard and the first female to ever play in the tournament, Sweden's Pernilla Lindberg.
It's quite different. My goal this week is really to go out and just enjoy this opportunity and have fun with it.
Lindberg admitting she's got her work cut out though, playing off the men's tees and against pros she's never played alongside.
Now Lindberg's playing group will have plenty of eyes on it, not just because she's the only female, but also because of who she's playing alongside.
Bowden Barrett proving he's more than handy with a golf club and a clear favourite of Lindberg's among the attending All Blacks.
Bowden he was for sure the more consistent player out of the 3 of them. I think both Izzy and Damien can probably hit it farther than him, but that's not always what it's about.
Sweden versus the All Blacks, just one of the several intriguing storylines heading into Thursday's tournament.
And that ends Sugar Sports. The weather details coming up next.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
A look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow. Mostly fine weather in Port Moresby and Alatau. Rain showers in Daru and Popondita. Cloudy with some showers later in Kerema. In the Momase region, fine weather with a chance of a few showers in Lae. Rain drizzles in Medang. Cloudy with a chance of rain in Wewak. And cloudy with a chance of some rain drizzles in Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, mostly fine weather in Lorengau and Kavieng, cloudy with a chance of showers in Kokopo, Rabaul and Kimbe, rain drizzles in Buka. And in the Highlands region, rain and thunderstorms in Mount Hagen, Goroka and Kundiawa, cloudy with a chance of a few showers in Mindi and Wabag. Forecast for small crabs for the next 24 hours. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island to Kerema to Yule Island to Hood Point, Arama Coast, Samaria Island, including waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, with waters of Samaria Island and waters of Samaria Island to Cape Bogo, Finschhafen to waters of Manus and its western group of islands, with waters of Long Island to Karkar Island, Medang, Bogia, Wewak, Aitape, Vanimo, northern PNG Indonesian border, including waters of New Ireland, East and West New Britain and Bougainville, seas of 0.5 to 1.3 meters. A look at the ocean forecast. The PNG areas in the Coral Sea, seas light with southeast to northwest winds at 15 to 25 knots. In the Solomon Sea, seas light with southeast winds at 10 to 15 knots. In the Bismarck Sea, seas slight with southwest to northwest winds at 10 to 15 knots. And in the Pacific Ocean, seas slight with southwest to northwest winds at 10 to 15 knots.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by Money Plus, with you always.
And that's the way it is this Tuesday, 25th of February 2020. On behalf of the news team, a pleasant viewing. Good night.